Hi, I'm Donna Davis. I'm here with Richard Cole, the founder of Cole's Wild Bird Products. And today we are taping this live show, so we won't be able to answer your questions live, which Richard is an expert, always answering questions live on the first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. But today we're going to tape it because Richard has to be out of town. So glad you're here.
Thank you.
Glad you could do this. So we have a lot to talk about today. So we're going to talk about what to do if you find a weird bird. We're going to tell you a little bit about the Cole's calendar and the contest going on with that. We're going to talk about birdseed packaging, what to do if you find an injured bird, and then a word from our sponsor, the Flaming Squirrel Seed Sauce.
Yes.
So we got a lot to cover today, and we're going to get started with what do you do if you find a weird bird, one that you think it may never have been sighted before?
Yeah. It's possible that could happen to you. I would only caution people to be really sure of what you're looking at before you pick up the phone and call somebody. And the question of, well, what do you do if you think you have seen one? You can contact your local wild bird type store. There's probably some in your area. You could also try your local Audubon Society club. And both of those are good contacts to call and get some help with it. Before you do that, do your best to figure out what you're looking at.
And 9 times out of 10, you're not looking at something all that extraordinary, right?
Yeah, because rare birds are rare. So you're not going to see one. But it can happen. It's happened to me a few times. But if you think you see something, I would recommend that you, if you don't have a field guide, get a field guide, learn how to use it a little bit. And I will show you in the front of this one. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
There's just a little section that shows you what we call field marks on a bird. You see a bird and you try to see it, and then you go look in a book and you can't remember what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because you don't remember the field marks. These are simple little parts of a bird that you learn to recognize. What shape is the bill? What shape is the tail? What color is the bird? What is it doing with its tail, up or down? Just little things like that, which will
and then their
get
flight
you,
styles.
and then how they fly. Once you see a few of those things, it eliminates a lot of birds and gets it down to something more manageable. You can say, oh, this had this type of beak. Well, it's not a wren because it had a thick beak. It must be something like a cardinal. So just learn a little bit. If the best thing you could do, if you don't have that, take a picture.
You want to take the picture no matter what, right?
You need to take a picture no matter what. And don't take a picture from 50 feet away with your cell phone and expect somebody to identify the bird, because there's going to be a teeny little color dot in a big picture. Get as close as you can. If you have high resolution on your camera, take the most high resolution picture you can of the bird. So even if it is small, somebody can enlarge the picture and get a little better idea of what it looks like. Take a couple of shots. Then you have something to show somebody. We get a lot of pictures from people who send them in and say, what is this? We don't know. So many of the pictures, it's like, we don't know either. We can't tell. It's a blob.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just fine. Just if you give us enough, we can probably tell what it is, especially if we know where it was. So you can help identify it that way. Then make the contact. If you can't look it up online, taking some of the field marks and saying, what is this? You might be able to identify it yourself. If you can't, and you think it might be rare, make that contact. These people want to hear from you if that's the case. They'll ask you a few questions and perhaps even come out. And it could be that you have a bird that's either rare for the area or has never been seen in the area.
So tell me about, I know you have 3 or 4 times found the rare birds, but tell me a little bit about maybe one of the most interesting experiences.
I think the most interesting, I had just purchased a camera to help shoot some early videos for the company, and I was learning how to use it. It's called a Digicam. You put it on your shoulder like a real camera, and I was out in the front yard shooting toward my feet or learning how to use this camera, and this little bird hopped in and said, that's unusual. It just didn't look right. It was similar to a bird I recognized, but it just didn't look right. But I was so engrossed in the camera, I wasn't paying attention. I made sure I focused. I watched this bird follow it around. Oh, nice camera. Then later in the evening, I'm starting to look at things, and my wife walks up and says, oh, look. It was a spotted towhee. We have the rufous-sided towhee in the southeast. The spotted towhee is a western bird. It's similar looking, but distinctive in appearance. And right away we knew what it was, and I had good video.
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt it was there. Fortunately, it stayed around a week or so, and a lot of people came to see it.
Really?
It was the first time that bird had ever been identified in the state of Georgia.
Wow.
It's called a first state record.
Yeah.
I've had several of those experiences without having to really go out, paying attention to my feeders. I've seen a few. So that was exciting for me.
Yeah.
Pay attention. You don't know. It's probably not a rare bird, but it may be.
Yeah.
It may be one.
While we're talking about weird birds, let's talk about you, as the owner of Coles. I know that you love birds. That's why you started the company. But you've had some interesting experiences of seeing birds on packages of other brands' birdseed that you're like, why did they pick that bird, right?
Yeah. It's, once you really learn a field and become, say, an expert in it, you see things that other people do that, no, it's just not right. And we get a chuckle sometimes of what we see on other birdseed companies' packages. We see a lot of European birds on birdseed. They just say, oh, we need a bird on our feeder. So they'll Photoshop a bird onto the feeder, not knowing or caring what it is. And the people packaging this have no clue. One time, I think one of the funniest ones we saw was a kingfisher, which is a bird that hangs up in trees and drops down and catches fish. And it was a kingfisher on a birdseed package.
That is funny.
They don't eat seed at all.
Right.
But it was a cool-looking bird. But it just kind of tells you that these people are just going through the motions.
Right.
They're putting something in a bag. It's seed. Surely the birds will eat it. And they just stick some birds on there and say, here it is.
Are they likely to be companies that aren't in the United States, not based in the United States, do you think?
Some of the graphics and all are done by people outside.
Yeah.
And it's just a thing they're doing is get a bird on the package, make it look pretty.
Right.
We're trying to sell a product here. We never looked at it that way.
Right.
We look like make the best bird seed you can make to feed our birds. And then as the company grew, it's like, we need a package. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, well, the bird seed's the star, so don't put much on the package. And if you look at the Coles packages still, big clear packages, top to bottom, little label on it.
Yeah.
The other people are printed with a lot of color all over, kind of helps conceal what's in the bag, and big blurbs about birds on it and everything. But ours is a clear package. It's the seed.
So you want people to actually look at the product that you're selling.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's talk about this time of year. We're going to see a lot of nesting birds, and we're going to see a lot of baby birds and that kind of thing. Tell me what you should do if you find an injured bird.
If you find an interest, two things this time of year. The breeding season's here. A lot of baby birds will be coming out soon. So these guys get out of the nest a lot of time before they can fly. They'll be on the ground. It's obvious, it's pretty easy to tell a baby. They just don't look like they're grown. And you'll see those on the ground, leave them alone. And then there's an injured bird that's truly injured. Window hits are the most common problem. You have a feeder out and a hawk comes by, the bird spooks. It can't see the window. It sees the reflection of the trees behind it. Color doesn't mean anything, and it just runs and hits the window. It stuns the bird most of the time. Sometimes it'll kill the bird. So you position your feeder in a slightly different area if that starts happening. But if you find a bird, if you hear it hit and you see it laying on the deck, just leave it for a few moments. If you have danger of a cat or something getting it, just go ahead and pick it up, put it in like a shoebox or something. Just cover it and put a cardboard box over it for a while so it can have dark, it can have peace and quiet, and nothing's going to get it. Give it 15 or 20 minutes and take a peek. Most likely it's going to be okay and recovered enough to take off. It's just been, as I say, knocked out, and it'll fly off. If not, if you don't make it, you'll know probably in 15 to 20 minutes. And but that's the best you can do. Just cover it and keep it quiet and in the dark.
So somebody at Coles knew somebody who had an injured cardinal, and they were like nursing the cardinal and trying to help it, right? And tell me a little bit about that. It's kind of, we want to do that.
There's a fine line between helping and then keeping it to raise as a pet. And I think that had evolved into the cardinal was better. I don't know if it was able to fly or not. Wasn't intimately familiar with that thing, but they were keeping it as a pet. People tend to do that. We want to help, but then it's like, oh, we'll keep the little bird. That's illegal. And what do you mean it's illegal? We talked to the person. They realized that they shouldn't be doing that, and it was released. And people keep these things, but they don't know it's against the law, and they should know. And so why is that against the law? It's a long story, but
It's a great story,
should
though.
I make it?
Yeah.
There is something called the Migratory Bird Treaty Act that was started and ratified in 1918. Leading up to 1918, it was like Wild West across this country. Everybody had guns and everybody used them, so birds were getting devastated, their populations were, for several reasons. One is everybody had a gun and decided if it moved, you shoot it. So ducks, geese, hawks, and small birds were that. The other thing that was hurting the population was a fad started for feather collecting and, of all things, nest collecting. People, nice little old ladies, would go and collect nests.
And put in their
With
house
the
for
eggs in them. Oh,
decoration.
that's even better. It's got eggs in them. So all these people around populated areas were taking all these nests, and the birds couldn't reproduce. The other people were shooting all the birds. Populations of ducks and things that migrate, and local populations were, I said, being devastated. United States and Canada got together and started working. Like Canada was worried that all their ducks coming up to Canada weren't getting there. So some regulations got started. People didn't think much about injuring and doing this thing, but slowly a movement built, and they started paying attention. Then some laws got passed, and like in 1918, a major law got passed that protected a lot of bird species in the United States or passing through the United States. It ended up being working with Mexico and in Canada, Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which basically said you can't hurt these birds that are passing through. It got expanded into you can't hurt these birds that live here. And that means you can't shoot them, you can't shoot them to eat, you can't shoot them to stuff, except by permits for hunting certain things. And that started helping. People quit doing that, and it became more popular to protect the birds than to get rid of them. And so by the time I was a young child in the 50s, and this is from 1898, so you got 50 years in there, major change. Everywhere I'd go in these little towns, you see bird sanctuary signs on the city limits. They were proud of it. Bird sanctuary, don't mess with our birds. Huge shift in thoughts between the late 1800s and early 1900s to the early 50s. And suddenly the bird population started improving because of this, and we became bird conscious. And the act has been, like I said, modified a lot. Basically, in an eggshell, to say, you can't hurt or keep or trap or hold or possess any part of any native species. You say, well, that sounds silly. It's a dead bird. That's what they all say when they get caught with a bird. Oh, I found this hawk dead on the side of the road. Tough. It's in your possession. Car hit it. Doesn't matter. You can't touch it. It is illegal. You have to have somebody like law enforcement come and pick it up. People don't do that, but you can be prosecuted if you have a dead bird that's protected. And that goes a long way because everybody would say, oh, yeah, I just found it this way.
Or they get it and they want the feathers and that kind of thing. Yeah, and for a while, I watched a documentary about how women had these beautiful peacock feathers and other type of bird feathers, and they would put them in their hats, and they were so expensive, and they were selling for so much that it was great incentive to go and kill off all the birds. And one of the women in the documentary was like, appeal to the mothers to say, let's stop the market for this, because can you imagine a world for your children without birds? And we really would have that if not for that act.
Yeah, if not for her and a lot of people like that.
Right.
Getting into this movement. Like I said, what a tremendous shift from the late 1800s, early 1900s into the next century. And by the 40s, things were looking a lot better. By the 50s, even better. And now, a lot of things have recovered.
And we could talk about this forever, and Richard and I were talking about it a little bit before this started, but you have to just tell very quickly about the passenger pigeons. I never heard this story.
There was a bird in the United States, native to this country, this area, called a passenger pigeon. It's kind of like a pigeon. They're slightly different, a whole species, and there were huge numbers of these. And some people would say it took a day and a half for the flock to fly over. That's probably an exaggeration. But there were a lot of these birds. Well, they flocked, and they were very social. And people decided it was a good idea to shoot them. It was easy. And so everybody started doing this. It was fun. You go out sport shooting and you shoot these big flocks of birds. And now they're extinct.
Oh, it's so
They
sad.
busted up so many of the flocks, killed so many of these birds that the breeding population was lost. We lost the bird. It's
Yeah,
gone.
it's such a tough lesson.
Many
That's
other
something
birds
that-
ended up coming close to that. The American bald eagle got dangerously close
Right.
back in the 60s and 70s with a lot of restoration programs now, and the ceasing of use of DDT really helped. And now the population of bald eagles has recovered.
Yeah, and it's so amazing how much we all love birds now. Just to think that now we have these huge bird supply stores, where you can buy everything for birds, and we do all that we can to attract them. And I've read that that the presence of wild birds can make like your neighborhood home prices even go up, like more desirable, that people just love birds so much. So let's talk a little bit about the flaming seed sauce, because now we've gone so much that we love the birds that we want to protect their food, and we want to protect it from the squirrels.
Oh, this is like now a word from our sponsor.
Yeah.
Cole's Flaming Squirrel Seed Sauce. What the heck is it? This is the product we came up with because so many people said, well, the squirrels eat all my bird seed. And so we get a squirrel-proof feeder. Well, I can't do that, or I can't put the feeder here. How do you stop it? Well, here's a way to stop it. This right here is a concentrated sauce from habanero peppers, one of the hottest peppers out there. And then the juice in that is concentrated and then put in this bottle.
You have to be very careful with
Very
it.
careful with this bottle. You don't want this on your face, certainly not in your eyes. You don't want to leave it on your skin. That being said, it's fine in the digestive tract of humans and birds and squirrels. Doesn't bother you. People go out and have hot sauce parties all the time. If you don't want to get that in your eyes, you don't want to leave it on your skin, but you can eat it and it's fine.
But we don't want to encourage any people
We don't
to
want
eat
to
it.
encourage that. We're not going to sample this here.
Right.
But this is a very thick, orangey, reddish liquid, and it's mixed with safflower oil, so you can pour it nicely and mix it with your own birdseed. You can take an ounce of this, put it in your birdseed in a plastic bag, and shake it around or stir it in a bowl, and then put that let it sit a few minutes, put that in the feeder. The squirrels are going to leave it alone. And the birds don't mind the taste at all.
The birds, and it's interesting, this is how this habanero seed, I guess, spreads through the birds. And it doesn't hurt the birds, and they can't taste it. And this is sort of how it moves, but definitely the squirrels can taste it.
Yeah, the birds can't taste the heat from
Yeah.
the taste. Humans, mammals can. Humans can, so squirrels can. They're a mammal. So this is extremely hot to the squirrel when they taste it. If it's applied properly, you put enough on there. But the birds don't taste it. So the birds eat the seed, and the squirrels pretty much leave it alone with this. There's a lot of other uses for this hot stuff. I put it on some plants that the squirrels have been coming up digging up bulbs. I just put this on the ground around there, spray it down there, and that pretty much keeps them from digging.
And Cole's really originated this sort of thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes, this came from a product we had developed where we take the sauce and infuse it into sunflower meats so that you have the best, most desired bird seed, pure sunflower meats, and then it's infused with the hot sauce. And so you can just throw it in your feeder. You don't have to mix it or anything. It's convenient. Throw it in the feeder. Squirrels tend to leave it alone. Birds love it.
Yeah. And we
So-
do want to say, I think it's important that, and I know your daughter Elaine says this, if a squirrel is hungry enough, it's going to eat something, because anything, if it's hungry enough, will eat it. But as a general rule, if you follow the directions, it's going to be very effective.
Yes, it is. I think in 10 or 11 years now I've been using this type of product. I had squirrels one season, 2 or 3 squirrels who would pretty much eat it. Other than that, no. So they'll sample a little bit. After a little taste, you see them walk off and sometimes rub their mouth, and they don't like it.
Yeah.
So it's very effective. It's used right.
And it doesn't hurt them.
And
right?
it doesn't hurt them at all. It is a food-grade chili pepper
Right.
sauce. It's a nice hot sauce. So
you're
only
looking for a
much
good hot
stronger
sauce.
than a regular hot sauce.
So we want to go back to what to do if you find an abandoned baby bird. We've talked about it before, but it's springtime. People are going to find these abandoned baby
We're
birds.
going to talk about this a lot during this time of the year.
Yeah.
Humans are so nice. We see something in trouble, we want to help. And gee, there's nothing cuter than a little baby bird and more helpless looking than a little baby bird out there in your yard, all by itself, chirping. And you got to go pick it up.
No, you
And then you got to take care of it. Then you got to call the vet. What do I do with this baby bird? How do I feed this baby bird? To put it very bluntly, taking that baby bird up and trying to take care of it is almost assuredly a death sentence to that bird. You can't take care of it. It's very difficult to do, very difficult to give them the food that they need and the care that they need. So what do you do about this poor baby bird? It's chirping and you feel so bad about it. Leave it alone. If you can't stand to leave it alone, pick it up and move it over by a bush or something. If it's out in the middle of the yard, in imminent danger of being eaten by a cat or a dog, move it. Hide it over in a bush. The bird's chirping because it wants mama or daddy to come help. But they're not coming with you standing there. You're a predator. They're staying away. That's self-preservation.
So just, 9 times
pick
out
it
of
up,
10, you can
move
just
it,
leave,
go
and the
away.
mom and dad are watching it. You
They
just
will
don't
come
see
back.
them.
It's
Right.
very normal for these birds to be out on the ground before they can fly. They want to get going, they get out there, and they can't fly. So it's common. Leave them alone. Like I said, if they're in danger, move them, hide them a little bit. The parents will find them. So they're, yep, they're doing that all the time. The parents will come and feed them if you're not around. And just don't, you can pick them up, by the way. The old thing about, they'll smell the human on there. No, they can't smell.
But, we talked about that, and I do think that myth kind of came about because little kids always want to, like, grab a baby bird, and the best thing is leave it alone. So I know my mother told me that, and she probably just was like, leave that bird alone.
Yeah,
It's
the
better
mother will
off
smell your
without
scent
you.
and throw the birds out.
And convince me that I would kill it. But, okay, so we want to talk about the Kohl's calendar contest. And this lovely calendar, you want to hold that, Richard? I think the camera has a great angle on that. But this calendar is just beautiful. It's out right now, and now we are working on another one. And this has all pictures from people who, they're Kohl's fans. They feed the birds Kohl's, and then they take pictures, and they send them in to us. All the details about it are on the kohlswildbird.com website. You're just going to scroll down and you'll see toward the bottom of the page the notification about the contest. And the last day to enter is May 15th. So if you haven't entered yet and you would love to have your picture featured in this beautiful calendar that's going to be coming out soon, then go ahead and send your pictures in. And we prefer, right, the birds are eating Kohl's, but they don't have to be.
That's right. That's right. Just get the picture. Send it in. You may make the cover.
Are you amazed at the quality and beauty of the kind of pictures that you all get? I just can't believe it.
Yes.
This picture is that is so incredibly beautiful. And all of them are.
Yes. And it's a nice calendar to have.
Yeah.
And just think your picture could be in there. You got to send it in, though, and you've got a few weeks to get that done. So send in a picture. We love going through them. We'd love to put your picture in here.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a picture that you just now take. Like if you have one that you took several years ago, it's fine. But one of the things that we really want to do with this is depict the seasons. And I want to see that one. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Yeah, just like a classic picture. But we want to show, like, we love the winter pictures, if you've got snow in the picture, and then fall with the changing leaves. And what a perfect one for the 4th of July, the hummingbird feeder, and the hummingbirds, which I'm thrilled that we are seeing the hummers now.
It's that time.
Yeah.
It's that time.
So you may want to make your hummingbird food and make sure that you have some of that out for the hummers as well, since they are definitely here. Anything else that you want to talk about today? Anything else on your list?
There's lots of stuff on the list. The hummingbirds are here. They're moving into the United States in force now. They've been coming in for several weeks.
They're going to be hungry then.
They're going to be hungry. Their mission is to move into the lower states and up into southern Canada and the northern United States. And so you'll start to see more and more of them. And as quick as they get there, they'll pair off, they'll settle down, they'll start the nesting season. So you won't see quite as many during the nesting season. As we get down into late June and July, especially early August, you'll see more and more birds because the babies are out. So keep your feeders out. keep it clean. I recommend the Cole's hummingbird feeder, the high rise. It's got a perch on it. Unlike most feeders, the perch is higher than the bowl, so when the birds are sitting on it, you can see the bird on the backside of the feeder.
Right.
And they love it. They sit up there and reach down to get the food, and you have a better view. It's also easy to clean.
I have a Hummer high rise, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So, just make sure that you have plenty of food out for the birds many of them are still coming in, right? Migrating right
Yes.
now.
And they'll come in, like I said, they'll settle down. You won't see quite as many for a while, but then when it's time for them to head back to Central America, you'll see more and more of them as they move through, especially as you get further and further down to the United States and down to the coast. You'll see more and more birds. We see in Georgia, we see a lot more birds in August than we do at the other months because they're all moving through here, headed down to Central America.
Oh, okay. I
So-
didn't realize that. Do you think that the colder weather has, throughout much of the country, has thrown off anything in migration, or is it just time of day and that's pretty
I
much
doubt it. I doubt it. These guys seem to focus an awful lot on the time of year. If you track and you mark your calendar when you see all migratory species, oh, I saw goldfinches today, or I saw this bird, or the robins just showed up. You'll tend to see those about the same time every year. In our hummingbirds, I'll start to see the very first ones in Georgia, really about mid-March, early March. I'll start seeing onesie-twosies. Down on the coast, it's February. Chicago's will be a little bit later. In southern Canada, it'll be even later. They just barely have time to get up there, get nested, get the young raised, and get out.
Isn't that funny? Their
And-
life's not easy. That migration in and of itself is just amazing. They know when to do it, they know what to do, and the fact that those little hummers can fly as far as they do is just absolutely amazing.
It is amazing, too, and they're so
Yeah.
small. I don't know how they do it.
And we're so glad to be able to have you here to answer all the questions. We will be back live at the 1st of June, the first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock in Eastern Standard Time. Excuse me, I can't speak. So just another quick reminder, go to coleswildbird.com and get your pictures in for the Coles Calendar Contest. And go ahead and send in your questions. You can ask your questions live, or you can comment on this post and just ask Richard questions. There's just about nothing I've ever asked him that he doesn't know about birds. So
Yeah. And yeah, if you have a question and you want to just send it in anytime, we'll get it. We may put it, when we're doing live, we may go back and read one that's come in before. It doesn't have to be right then. But yeah, call us in during the shows too,
yeah, you're such an expert.
except for this
Yes.
one.
Yeah, this time, but you have to, we understand you got to go on vacation sometime. But
Yes.
thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.